Welcome back to the channel. I know a lot of my followers like these Old West articles. We got a good one for you today. It's titled 10 Most Feared Gunslingers Who Ruled the Wild West. The American Old West was a time and place where survival depended on grit, nerve, and sometimes the speed of your draw. Gunslingers, whether lawmen, outlaws, or something in between, etched their names into history with cold steel and a blazing six-shooter. But behind every dime novel and dusty saloon tale, there were real men whose reputations were built on the bodies they left behind. These weren't just rowdy cowboys in barroom brawls. These were hardened killers, enforcers, and soldiers of fortune. And while the movies often blur the lines between myth and fact, the legends on this list were very real and very deadly. Let's step into the saloons, dusty trails, and deadly duels that defined an era and meet the 10 most feared gunslingers who ruled the Wild West. First on the list is John Wesley Hardin, the most dangerous man alive. Born in Texas in 1853, John Wesley Hardin was the son of a preacher, but he certainly didn't live like one. By age 15, Hardin had already killed a man, allegedly in self-defense, and that was just the beginning. After shooting 3 Union soldiers who tried to arrest him, he spent much of his life on the run, leaving a trail of bodies across Texas. His temper was short, his draw was fast, and he was said to have killed over 40 men. Some estimates go higher. Hardin was eventually caught and sentenced to 25 years in prison, during which he studied law. Upon his release, he briefly worked as an attorney, but old habits die hard. In 1895, he was shot in the back of the head while playing dice in El Paso. Even among killers, Hardin was considered exceptional, a man feared by both outlaws and lawmen. At number 2 on the list is Dallas Stoudenmire, the sheriff with the hair trigger. Dallas Stoudenmire may not be a household name today, but in the 1880s he was known as one of the most efficient and lethal lawmen in Texas. A Civil War veteran, he carried the scars and bullets of multiple battles with him and didn't hesitate to shoot when the situation called for it. In El Paso, he cemented his reputation during the infamous 4 dead in 5 seconds gunfight. Stoudenmire had a reputation for violence, especially after a few drinks, and this time in law enforcement saw him drop several notorious criminals. But his aggressive tactics made enemies. Eventually, his feud with the powerful Manning family led to his own demise, shot from behind by James Manning during a shootout. At number 3 on the list is Porter Rockwell, the Destroying Angel. Orrin Porter Rockwell served as the personal bodyguard of both Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Known as the Destroying Angel, Rockwell was fiercely loyal and fiercely violent. Though many stories surrounding him are wrapped in legend, at least 36 confirmed kills are attributed to him, with whispers of more than 100. He worked as a deputy marshal in Utah Territory and was feared by outlaws and enemies of the Mormon Church alike. Rockwell had a unique sense of justice, one wrapped in faith, iron, and absolute commitment to those he served. Whether you saw him as a guardian or a menace depended entirely on which side of the law you stood. At number 4 on the list is Billy the Kid, the young rebel with a gun. Born Henry McCarty, but better known as Billy the Kid, this baby-faced outlaw became a legend by the age of 21. He started small, stealing food and clothing, but it didn't take long before he was killing men, including a blacksmith and several lawmen. His notoriety exploded during the Lincoln County War, where he fought as part of the group called the Regulators. Billy the Kid managed to escape capture multiple times, even killing his jailers during one breakout. Though he claimed to have killed 21 men, each one for each year of his life, historians believe the real number is closer to 9. He was finally gunned down by Sheriff Pat Garrett in 1881. His short life, rebellious image, and dramatic death turned him into a Western icon. At number 5 on the list is Clay Allison, the man with a dark smile. Clay Allison was a Confederate veteran with a taste for whiskey and a flair for violence. Known for his unpredictable behavior and fierce temper, Allison wasn't afraid to settle disputes with a bullet or a decapitation. In one particularly gruesome incident, he reportedly beheaded a man and mounted the skull on a fence post outside a saloon. But Allison wasn't just a brute. He had a twisted sense of humor. After killing a man who tried to ambush him during dinner, he reportedly said, quote, "I didn't want to send a man to hell on an empty stomach." Despite his violent ways, Allison died not in a shootout, but from a broken neck after falling from a wagon in 1887. At number 6 on the list is Wild Bill Hickok, the sharpshooter of the plains. James Butler Hickok, better known as Wild Bill, was one of the most famous gunmen in the West. A lawman, gambler, and scout, Hickok was a crack shot with both pistols and had the charisma to match. His legendary duel with David Tutt, where he killed his rival with a single shot from 75 yards, helped cement his reputation. Wild Bill lived by the gun and died by it, shot in the back of the head while playing poker in Deadwood, South Dakota. At the time of his death, he held a hand of aces and eights, forever known as the dead man's hand. While his confirmed kill count is small, around 6, his influence and reputation were enormous. At number 7 on the list is Tom Horn, the hired gun with a badge. Tom Horn lived many lives: cowboy, Pinkerton detective, Army scout, and eventually assassin for hire. He operated mostly in Wyoming and Colorado, where he was believed to have killed 17 people. Horn was an expert marksman and often hired by cattle barons to take out rustlers and troublemakers. His downfall came in 1902 when he was convicted for the murder of a 14-year-old boy, Willie Nickel. Whether he was truly guilty remains debated, but Horn was hanged for the crime. While some saw him as a cold-blooded killer, others believed he was simply a tool of powerful interests in the violent range wars of the era. At number 8 on the list is Wyatt Earp, the relentless enforcer. Unlike many on the list, Wyatt Earp was more lawman than outlaw, but that didn't make him any less feared. Known for his involvement in the 1881 gunfight at the OK Corral in Tombstone, Earp hunted down and killed several men responsible for ambushing his brother Morgan. He was part of a posse that exacted brutal revenge across Arizona. Earp later claimed to have killed more than a dozen criminals throughout his career. Though often portrayed as a white hat hero, Wyatt's justice was personal, intense, and often violent. He survived gunfights, political turmoil, and the wildest towns in the West, emerging as one of the era's enduring legends. At number 9 on the list is Jim Miller, the preacher with a death wish. James Killer Miller was an unusual figure, always neatly dressed, deeply religious, and disturbingly calm. But behind the Sunday demeanor was a ruthless killer who worked as a professional assassin. He was said to pray before each hit, then kill without hesitation. His known body count is at least 6, but rumors stretch higher. Eventually, he was caught after the murder of a former U.S. deputy marshal. Before he could stand trial, a mob stormed the jail and lynched him. His last words? "Let the rope break." That tells you everything you need to know about Jim Miller. At number 10 on the list is Doc Holliday, the deadliest dentist. John Henry Doc Holliday may have started as a dentist, but it was tuberculosis and a short temper that pushed him into a life of gambling and gunfighting. A close friend of Wyatt Earp, Doc played a key role in the OK Corral shootout and numerous other showdowns. Despite his frail health, Doc was fearless, famous for his quick draw and deadly aim. While the stories say he killed over a dozen men, historians place the number closer to 3. But it wasn't the count that made him feared. It was his unshakable willingness to fight and die for those he called friends. The article continues with some additional information about life and death in the Old West. What tied these men together wasn't just their ability to shoot, it was their code, their charisma, and their presence. In the Old West, a reputation was everything. Some killed for money, others for justice, but all of them lived by the gun. The frontier didn't offer many paths, and for these men, violence became the road to fame or an early grave. While legends blur fact and fiction, one truth remains. These gunslingers lived fast, died hard, and left behind tales that echo through saloons and across dusty plains to this day. Today, Hollywood might paint them as larger-than-life heroes or villains, but the reality was more complex. These men were often born into chaos, post-war America, frontier lawlessness, and a society where survival often meant pulling the trigger first. Their stories fascinate us not just because of what they did, but because they remind us of a time when the rules were still being written, one bullet at a time. Alright, there you have it. 10 of the most feared gunslingers who ruled the Wild West. Pretty interesting, always interesting to read about those guys. Of course, a few you know from Hollywood tales, the movies that depicted them in the past. Others who might be new to you. So get in that comment section. Let me know, what do you think of the gunslinger lifestyle? You think that's something that you could have fit into back in the day? Or is it something that's not for you? And of course, as always, we ask that you hit that like button, help get this video out into front of a few more eyes. When you hit that big thumbs up like button, that's what does it. Hit that like button, ring that notification bell, and if you really like this sort of content, consider subscribing to the channel. Still building my channel, so we'd love to have you aboard, putting out new videos every day. So there's always something fun and fresh for you to listen to. Thank you for watching this one to the very end. I'm Brian Kingsbury. We'll talk to you on the next one. Bye.
Yeah! Woo! Woo-hoo-hoo!